Welcome back everybody to another MOTOBOB video. Now today, KTM announced the return of a famous name in their lineup with the brand new 2023 890 SMT. So in this video, we'll go through everything that you need to know about it with the top 10 features. Now the famous name that I just mentioned is the SMT suffix on this bike, which stands for Supermoto Touring. And that might sound like a bit of an oxymoron and a terrible idea for a motorcycle, but it has worked for them in the past with the 990 SMT, which was launched back in 2009, and to be fair, the reviews were pretty good. And the basic idea is to combine the fun and flickability of a supermoto with some of the comfort and distance-orientated features of an adventure bike. And so while the original 990 was based on their V-twin powered 990 Adventure, this new 890 SMT is built upon the same platform as their current day parallel twin powered 890 Adventure. That ought to bring it bang up to date, and yet there are plenty of adaptations to enhance the fun on tarmac. It is admittedly a pretty unusual concept for a bike, but the last one worked pretty well, and so why shouldn't this? In KTM's own words, imagine the ultimate supermoto play weapon, but also a bike that boasts a number of technical features and additions that are necessary for extended touring capabilities, so you can attack the hill, but also know that the bike will take you much further. Now the centerpiece for the 890 SMT is the LC8C 889cc parallel twin that you'll also find in their 890 Duke naked bikes and the 890 Adventure bikes. And it's a brilliant performer and also super compact, and that helps to make a slender bike. Now there are a few different tunes of this engine. This one gets the same as the 890 Adventure, so 105 horsepower peak, and that's as opposed to the 121 of the 890 Duke R. So 15 or 16 horsepower down, but the upside is you do get more torque. Admittedly only 1 Nm, but it's shifted lower in the rev range, and that helps to give it power in all the right places for road riding. It is also pretty fuel efficient at 4.6 litres per 100 kilometers. Sorry for anyone who works in miles per gallon, but I'm using that because that's what all the manufacturers quote now. But yeah, this reasonably economical consumption will help with that semi-touring friendly positioning of this bike, although naturally fuel capacity is a little bit down on the 890 Adventure. That gets the big 20-litre tank that sort of hangs down both sides of the bike. It really does help to give it this super planted handling both on road and off, and it also helps to limit the sloshing of the fuel when you're changing direction, but naturally it's going to give it some ground clearance issues when you start to push on tarmac. So I think that's why they've slimmed it down on the SMT. It's down to 15.8 litres, so not the same touring ability, but really you're going to want more lean angle on a bike designed for supermoto style riding. And they also say they've done it to slim the tank down and improve the ergonomics for sportier riding. So they say it'll allow you to slide further into the bike with a wide and comfy contact patch, but still compact enough for free and flowing movement. Wrapped around this engine, we've got the chromo steel frame with a new geometry that's said to be a little bit tighter, so slightly more aggressive, a little bit of a steeper head angle, and that should help to give it slightly quicker handling. KTM also claimed that it's particularly light, and that helps with the super impressive wet weight of 194 kilograms. So that's 16 kilograms less than the 890 Adventure. And given that it still looks like a relatively large and spacious bike, I think it's pretty good. And again, that's going to help with changes of direction, better acceleration, better braking than a heavier bike. But the big selling point of this bike is the 17-inch cast wheels front and rear, which are shod with super sticky Michelin Power GP tires. Now for reference, the 890 Adventure gets a 21-inch spoke front and an 18 at the rear, and those wheel sizes are much more common on adventure bikes because they'll roll better over rougher surfaces and obstacles. But of course, they're always going to feel a little bit vague when you get them on tarmac versus proper road wheels, and that's exactly where the SMT comes in. Zero intention to go off-road, but it still retains that large, spacious and tall stance. Now suspension comes from KTM's in-house brand WP, and it's their Apex 43mm open cartridge upside down fork with 180mm of travel, so still pretty tall but not the full 200mm of the 890 Adventure. Still, they're fully adjustable with the little thumb twiddlers on top of the fork legs, and I particularly like those because you don't have to get tools out to make changes. Now the shock also comes from WP, but one of the adaptations they've made specifically for the SMT is that they've canted it further forward than the 890 Adventure, and they say that this helps to reduce the seat height whilst also accommodating a longer swing arm, which they say gives it a bit more of a sporty forward riding position, as well as improving the straight line stability. This bike is still pretty tall though, at 860mm in the seat, as you'd expect from a Supermoto inspired riding position, and whereas the 890 Adventure is adjustable between two positions, so 840 and 860, this is actually fixed at 860mm because of the long single piece Supermoto style seat. Great if you do want to slide around the saddle and change position, but if you're on the shorter side, I think this bike is going to feel pretty lofty. As for the bars, they're adjustable between 6 different positions with 30mm of range, so that should help with finding a comfortable back angle for longer stints in the saddle. Now brakes are Jejuan made and KTM branded, as with many other bikes in their lineup, and you get radially mounted 4-piston calipers on a pair of 320mm discs at the front, with a 2-pot caliper on a 260mm disc at the rear. And look, although this braking hardware might not be from a fancy schmancy brand name, in my experience of reviewing the 790 Duke and the 890 Adventure recently, which use pretty much the same, if not the same braking setup, you know, there's plenty of performance and power and feel. Now the SMT gets all the latest tech, courtesy of a 5-inch TFT display that you'll find on a bunch of other KTMs, and they say it uses an optically bonded mineral glass, which is both scratch and glare resistant. Through this screen and the switchgear, you've got 3 riding modes to administer, so range, street and sport, and you can customize both throttle response and traction control through 10 levels. And the TC is also lean sensitive, so it'll intervene appropriately if you're mid-corner, and there's also cornering ABS too, including a Supermoto mode, which allows you to switch it off on the rear wheel only, should you want to get a bit of a slide on. Then in the accessories catalog, you've got a bunch of other techie features like heated grips and a quick shifter and cruise control, a track-specific riding mode, MSR, which is their engine drag torque control, and then there's the connectivity functionality, which allows you to pair your phone for music and calls, as well as their navigation features right there on the dash. It's also worth adding that you can get a package for some of these features, which helps to bring the total cost down. Now, number 9 that I've got here is the styling. It's exactly what you'd expect from KTM. It's angular, it's orange and black. And look, this bike is a mix of genres, so naturally it looks like a bit of a mix visually as well. Personally, I'd say it's not exactly a piece of rolling art, but this is a bike that focuses more on riding experience than looks. As always though, let me know what you think of it in terms of the styling down in the comments below. Now price wise, this bike will start at £12,499 on the road, and it sort of sits in the KTM lineup right between the 890 Duke and the 890 Adventure. You know, it's more sporty than the Adventure and more comfort and touring biased than the Duke, and so for reference, the Duke is $11,599 and the Adventure is $11,999. So the SMT is the most pricey by 500 quid. As for elsewhere in the market, I think the most obvious competitor would be the Ducati Hypermotard 950, also Supermoto inspired. It's also twin cylinder and it's similar in terms of output. It is a little bit less distance focused, but on the other hand, it does have more of the looks, I'd say. And so I'd love to know from you down in the comments which bike you choose. So do let me know, and if you're new here and you want to see more of the latest motorcycle news right here on YouTube, then hit subscribe. I'll also leave my 790 Duke review from recently right here so you can give it a click and give it a watch. A great bike at a very competitive price point. Let me know what you think. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.